smallpox and gonorrhea that virtually wiped out the native human populations of the so-called New World. In return, Native Americans may have gifted the Old World with syphilis. But the ships of explorers brought more than diseases to their destinations. The European black rat and the Norway brown rat came along as well, and were arguably more successful than humans in their conquest of the Americas. North American crayfish were imported to Europe in the mid-1800s to replace the native species which had been wiped out by plague. Unfortunately, the plague-resistant North American species was so successful, it carried the plague through all the European river systems where it was introduced, wiping out any original crayfish populations that remained. In the 1930s, Nazi Reich Marshal Hermann Goering decided that the clever American raccoon was an aesthetically pleasing addition to Germany's woodland creatures. Now the American raccoon threatens to eradicate the Rhineland's vineyards and decimates the German wine industry. Pet owners have introduced their share of unexpected species to their own backyards. Eugene Schieffelin, a Shakespeare enthusiast who thought all birds mentioned by the bard should inhabit the New World, released 60 starlings in Central Park one fine March day in 1890. Because of a single line in Henry IV, there are now 200 million starlings in America, all descended from Schieffelin's original 30 pairs. In 2000, an aquarium owner released 2 adult Chinese northern snakehead fish into a pond in Maryland. Within 2 years, 100 of the voracious carnivores, which grow as long as 3 feet and have nasty teeth with which they devour fish, amphibians, mammals, and even birds, were discovered in the pond. Officials were concerned because the primitive northern snakehead can walk on its fins and survive 3 days out of water, and the pond was only 75 yards from the Patuxent River. Though the pond was pumped full of poison, snakeheads began showing up in the Potomac and as far south as Florida by 2004. The industrious honeybee that we see in our flower gardens was intentionally introduced to North America by Spanish conquistadors in the 1500s and remains an indispensable partner to agriculture, having wiped out most of the native species that pollinated native plants. Not satisfied with the honey output of the Italian honeybee, bee geneticist Warwick Kerr brought queens of an African bee species to Brazil in 1956. After producing Africanized honeybees, 26 hybrid queens accidentally escaped. Since then, their aggressive Africanized progeny have been expanding their range northward at a rate of 375 miles a year, threatening to eradicate all Italian bee colonies in their path. In 1986, the Varroa vampire mite arrived in North America from Southeast Asia. By 2005, 40 to 60% of North America's beehives were wiped out by the vampire mites, and millions of hives had to be rushed from other continents to save the year's crop. We are, at all times, in an astonishingly precarious position in relation to the vast web of species around us. All it takes is one new invader, a snake on a piece of driftwood, a seed in a bird dropping, or a pregnant insect in the landing gear of a jet, to throw all the old rules out. The balance that we see around us is a snapshot of a perpetual world war that is, for the most part, acted out too slowly for us to perceive. We prize the fragile ecology of the Hawaiian Islands, and yet 5 million years ago, there were no Hawaiian Islands. All of their species evolved from species that were, at one time, invaders that upset the balance enough to entrench themselves and flourish, or perished in the effort. It is on islands in particular that these battles of attrition, which usually take place outside the human timescale, come into sharpest focus. On islands, the battles are swift and the annihilations total, and dominant species with no competition often proliferate to create multiple new species. Travelers to tropical islands are familiar with the forms they must sign, declaring that they will not transport any species to or from their destinations. In the past, however, humans deliberately brought the plants and animals in their biological entourage with them, wherever they went, especially to islands. When Polynesians colonized the Hawaiian Islands, the chickens they